All right, testing the microphone. Check 1, 2. How are we doing? All right, seems like it's working, but we got a really long delay. Not much I'm gonna do about that. Cool. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everybody doing out there? Welcome to another Tuesday afternoon Ableton office hours hangout, talk about making music with Ableton Live. I'm assuming if you're here, you probably already know me. My name is Zach, and I do this on every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, where I will just kind of be here hanging out, making some noises, making some sounds, sometimes doing sound design, sometimes just screwing around with different projects I'm working on. And I am here to answer your questions about Ableton Live. So you are more than welcome at any point in chat just to type in a question, or you just want to talk about music in general. Doesn't even need to be about production. We could just talk about, I don't know, whatever music you're into, whatever you're listening to right now, whatever I'm listening to right now. Who cares? It can be anything you want. And then if you are not aware, on Friday afternoons at the same time, I do a song feedback stream where you can basically send me a track that you are working on, and I will take a listen to it, and I will give you my honest feedback as well as the rest of the people in chat. So normally on Tuesdays, I don't really have a plan going into the stream. I just kind of like hang out and figure something out until people start tossing me questions. But today, I actually have an idea of something I want to work on, something I want to do on stream, just so you guys can kind of see what my process is, which is building a drum rack template. I've been using the same drum template for a while, and I've been noticing it's just been getting a little stale. So I wanted to build a new one kind of from scratch and show you the various processes that I go through when kind of just building a drum rack from scratch, and kind of how I put that together. I got a few things I want to test out, and then I'll just save it as preset, and that way later on tonight or tomorrow when I start writing a new track, I will have another drum rack ready to go. And hopefully that will be useful and informative to you guys. But the priority is anything you guys want to talk about. So anything that is off the beaten path, anything that has nothing to do with what I'm doing, feel free to just toss that in the chat, and I will try my best to get around to it. So I'm going to kind of go through my process as I do this, and hopefully that will be helpful for you. So starting a drum rack from scratch, I usually kind of do one sound at a time, kind of get like either just a really good kick, or maybe one or two, maybe three different variations on a kick, just to have some variety in there. But I want to do something specific here, which is I want to first synthesize a kick drum. So I want to make a kick drum from scratch. And then I'm going to start layering it with other things to help kind of build it out a little bit. So I've done this on stream before, but just kind of as a review, I'm going to be basically building a kick drum. Well, I never tested my sound here. Hopefully you guys can hear this once I hit the button. Cool. Let me turn it up a little bit. So yeah, so I'm going to be synthesizing my own kick drum from scratch here. I like to use Operator for this. You can use any synthesizer you want. It doesn't really matter. So to make a kick drum, I'm just really focusing on, I'm going to try to make like an 808 style kick drum. So what I'm going to do here is just use a single oscillator, and it's just going to be a really big sine wave play at a really low frequency. So Rasta is asking in chat, what was updated in 11.0.5? I remember looking through the patch notes and seeing that there were a lot of like bug fixes and things like that. Nothing super huge, but if you look on the Ableton website, you can just find the patch notes for the most recent version, and it should just tell you. Let me see if I can find it. There's nothing like crazy huge. I have noticed my CPU Some of the CPU issues have scaled down a little bit, but nothing major so far. So some really minor stuff here. Take lane headers. Rename multiple tracks simultaneously. This is one of the few ones I did notice. They changed the clip gain. You have like an audio clip. This used to be a knob, and now it's a fader that goes up and down. But that doesn't really change anything. I just noticed like visually it looks different. I noticed this one too. See, the reverse button's a little different. Some of the buttons change a tiny bit. Yeah, live performance is increased. Some max for live stuff. Some MPE stuff, multi-clip, like it's a bunch of really tiny changes, and that's usually with the like 0.0 point whatever updates. That's usually what you're getting. So you're getting like less CPU usage. You're getting little tiny minor updates here. 15% less CPU on spectral resonator. That's great. Drum rack choke cubes for wavetable. Interesting. Push stuff. That moves the highlight. Some controller stuff, and then just a bunch of bug fixes. So nothing that's really going to change a whole lot. The big thing that myself and everybody else on the planet is looking for is the scaling down of some of the CPU issues that people are having with live, which I feel like it's every time there's one of those little patches, it feels like it's getting better. And usually there's not much after the bug fixes. Yeah, these are all bug fixes. So you can just Google Ableton 11 patch notes and it'll give you all the patch notes there. Usually it's pretty boring, but sometimes you can find some cool little hidden gems in there. But that is a good question. All right, so we are going to be synthesizing, going back into here to synthesize our own drum sound. So all I need to do is play a sine wave and play it at a really low frequency, something around here. Sometimes it can be really helpful just to kind of find the right frequency range is to use like a spectrum analyzer. And really what you're looking for is somewhere in this kind of like 40 to 60 hertz range. A lot of times like F is a good note to go by, but whatever note you want's fine. This is really all we're looking for. And instead of letting it sustain the entire time, we're going to go to our envelope and we are going to make it decay out. So it creates this kind of boomy thing. I'm going to give it a tiny bit of attack. So you don't get that click, hopefully. There we go. Hopefully you guys can hear that okay. But that helps us create our nice big kind of boomy thing here. And other than that, I might like toss a little bit of like a saturator on this. Just to kind of bring out some of the harmonics. Yeah, that could work. If I want to get a little more aggressive with it, I could go with the medium curve, but soft sine is kind of my jam here. That's all I'm gonna do. So sine wave, played at a low frequency, give it a little bit of attack, and then give it the amount of decay that fits whatever it is you're going for. I think that sounds pretty good, but you can always adjust this later on. So we're going to take both of these guys and we're going to toss them in our drum rack just by doing this. So one of the things about using a synthesizer inside of a drum rack is that you play one MIDI note and then it sends a different MIDI note to the actual instrument itself. So if I play the C1 note, it's actually sending the MIDI note C3 to my operator, which is way too high. So I could take the transpose over here and turn this down. And that'll work. That's one easy way to do it. Another kind of easy way to do this is open up your chain area. And once you do that, you can see down here opens up your inputs and outputs. You hit the I/O button, and the first option here is the receive. So this is the MIDI note that you play that's going to trigger this sound, which right now is C1. Over here is the MIDI note that it's going to send to our instrument, which we are going to set to be F0 probably. Depending, you're going to set this to be whatever key you're in, basically. So if you're in the key of F, we're going to set this to F0. And now if you want to tune it, you could, again, change it here, or you could change it with using the transpose control here. A lot of times I like to use F as just like a starting point. So now I'm playing the MIDI note C1, it's sending the MIDI note C0 into my operator, which is getting me my big kind of boomy 808 kind of sound that I'm going for. So that's step number one for building a nice kind of well-rounded kick. Step number two is to layer this up. Now I could synthesize the punch or the impact here. That's a legit way to do it. Or I could use a sample, which is how I'm going to do it. I like the combination of using one sample for a kick drum and using one synthesizer for a kick drum, and then merging the two together to kind of get the best of both worlds. So in this case, we already have our synthesizer for our boomy 808 style resonance of our kick. And then we're going to layer a sample that has a nice kind of punch to it. And we might tweak that a little bit. So to do this, I'm going to select both these guys, hit Command G. It's going to put them in a rack. I'm going to open up my chain area over here. And we're just going to grab a simpler, oops. We're going to grab a simpler, toss it right here. And I'm going to mute the operator. So I'm only dealing with one at a time. A lot of times when you're building devices and instruments, divide and conquer is the way to do it. So just kind of focus on one thing at a time and then put all your layers together. So in Simpler, we need to find a sample. So I got a folder full of some kicks that I downloaded recently. So I'm trying to looking for a sample that has a nice kind of punchy impact to it. Something like that could work. That could be okay. It's a little too mid-rangey for me. This one's great. That one's okay. That one could work. That could work. That could work. All right, so I think it's kind of a toss-up between that one and that one. They actually sound very similar to each other. I'm gonna go with this one. But just know you can always swap these out later on. I just want to find a kind of generic, decent starting point so that when I sit down to write a track, I don't need to do a bunch of sound design. I just have this as a preset ready to go. So I'm gonna take this guy, toss it in Simpler. When you're working inside drums or drum rack, make sure you're in one-shot mode. So now if I play this, actually this is gonna be interesting because I changed the play over here to be F0. So I actually have to pitch this guy back up. So this would be an example of why instead of using this transpose over here, we might want to use the transpose individually on the drum rack. I did not think about that beforehand. So now I'm just gonna have to pitch this up. Something like that. And we can use our tuner just in case, just to kind of see where we're at. Let's actually go up one more. Now this would be an F. So we could either do that or go down here. Yeah, I think we'll do this one up here. Cool. So now we got our punchy one and we got our boomy one. Here we have the two of them together. And this one is too long, so we're gonna take this decay and turn this down. Something like that could work. And now I'm gonna start tweaking them and dialing them in and tossing some more effects on them and kind of, again, dividing and conquering a little bit. So for example, on this one, I don't need the super low end of this one, so I might EQ that out a little bit on EQ8. So we can either have effects on both of them, or one of them, depending on where I put it inside the drum rack. We'll do something like that, just to kind of tone down some of that low end in there, because we have the other one to kind of make up for it. Like that. Now I can also control the volumes of these individually, so I can get a little bit more or less of each one of these sounds. So if I'm getting a little bit too much low end, I can mix and match to get the right amount there. We can also take this saturator and put it on both of them by putting it over here. Sounds way better over here. We can play the decay time a little bit. And the volume up on this one a little bit. Cool. So that can be a starting point there. And then if we want to, we could like toss some compression on here. Let's actually toss a glue compressor on the two of them together. And turn the soft clip on. We're going to give it a little bit of attack. Like 10 milliseconds. Turn the threshold down here a little bit. Turn the makeup gain back up a little bit. And make sure that we are not distorting that, which we are. And give it a little bit less bass. Okay, that's sounding okay for right now. Anything else I want to toss on this guy? I think it's sounding good for now. I might come back here and add some more effects on it, but for right now I got enough things going on that I think it works okay. I'll go ahead and rename this guy kick. So I see we got some more people joining us in chat. Right now, I'm just kind of screwing around building a drum rack from scratch and kind of just like building a little drum template preset kind of thing going on. However, you are more than welcome if you have any questions, comments, things you want to talk about, anything related to music or music production, feel free to toss it in the chat and I will get around to it as soon as I can. So that's going to be kind of like the starting point of this. I'm probably going to either swapping out this punchy sample or doing some pretty heavy modifications in terms of effects on it later on, just because it's close, but it's not quite what I want yet. In fact, I'm also going to turn the decay down a tiny bit more on this guy. This is one of the main reasons that I really like synthesizing the low end of my kick instead of using a sample, is that it's really easy to customize exactly how short or how long you want that to be. So if I have a lot of space in my drum beat, I might want a really long decay on my sub. If I want, or if I have like a much faster drum beat, I can make that sub a lot tighter. All right, so that's step one. And then step two, we're gonna go over to a snare. Now I could synthesize part of my snare. In this case, I'm probably not going to, just because it's easier to use samples. So we're gonna go once again to my folder of a couple snares and things. I'm gonna try to find like 2, maybe 3 different samples that I think work together and kind of complement each other. So we're gonna go through real quick and just kind of see if there's anything decent in here. That could work. I don't think I've used that one before, so I might use that one. All right, we're gonna start with that one, just to kind of see how it sounds. All right, you can work with that. And then let's find one to layer it up with. I might use like one of the snaps maybe. Just because it has like a different kind of textural quality to it. So one of my favorite kind of like sneaky fast ways to do this is if you have two samples you want to layer together inside of drum rack. If you hold down the command key, or I believe it's alt potentially if you're on PC, as you drag one sample on top of another, it puts them both inside of a drum rack. And now I hit one button and they're both in here. So we got this one here. And we got this one here. Like that. And I'm mostly using this one as kind of like the main layer. And this to just add like a little bit of texture in there. But I might turn this one down a tiny bit, just so you can hear both at the same time. So I use these volume controls a lot just for kind of like emphasizing or de-emphasizing different layers of samples that I want to be using. So do I want it to sound more like a snap with a little bit of snare in the background? Or does it sound like a snare with a little bit of snap in the background? Or do I want like an even amount of both? So yeah, maybe something like that could work. Let's put back to the other one right here. Cool. So now I've done that, I'm going to start tweaking it a little bit, trying to massage these a little bit to make them sound a little better. So one of the things that I've been experimenting with a little bit more is using the hybrid reverb as an insert effect. So normally when I'm doing reverbs, particularly on things like snares, you want to put it on a return track. Return tracks are just going to make your life a lot easier for doing that kind of thing. However, here we have a send knob and a dry wet knob here. And the send knob is really interesting. So we can actually use this like a send and return, but it's also as an insert effect. So I'm still kind of like wrapping my head around exactly what we can do here to kind of maximize the potential of using the send knob on something like this. But I'm gonna try it out here and see what we can come up with. I'm also, for right now, for the purpose of keeping it real simple, I'm gonna stick with just using the convolution for right now, and then we might toss in some of the algorithm later on. So we're gonna go in here. Some of these made for drums convolutions are pretty nice. So big snare sounds cool. Gives us a whole lot. And here we can see between using the combination of the send knob and using the dry wet knob together, we can actually we don't actually lose a lot of volume, even with a pretty heavy dry wet. So this does, I think, open up a lot of potential to, instead of having return tracks for everything, you can just load it up in here and use that to get the right amount. Like, we're not losing any volume, we're not losing any transients there, which is amazing. So I'm gonna give this a little bit more pre-delay and probably a little bit less decay and a little bit less size here. Actually sounds pretty good. I'm gonna try a few other ones just to see how it goes. Not that one. The kick verb on the snare actually sounds pretty good. That one's pretty nice and kind of like a little subtle. All right, I think it's a toss-up. Let's try the other two. I think it's a toss-up between the snare ambiance and the big snare. This one I think is a little smoother and I think fits in a little better, but I think both of those are solid options in this situation. Like, this one has a little bit more of like an echo to it, whereas this just kind of layers on top of what's already there really nicely. And so we can turn this up to get more of that. I think that's sounding pretty decent. So at this point, I would probably like keep tweaking a little bit, and then I'll probably switch over to the algorithm and see if I can get the algorithm to sound good, and then see if the two sound good together. What's up, the internet? Yeah, I can totally, well, well, I can at least try my best to answer any questions you have. That's kind of the whole point of the stream, is helping people out. So what do you got for me? But while you are typing out to your question, I'm going to play around with the algorithm a little bit. So the decay is like way too long. Like there, pretty good. Let's play with the size control a little bit, see what that difference that makes. It sounds pretty good far away. Keep damping down, play with the shape a little bit. That sounds okay. Let's try the other modes real quick. Try quartz. Cool, but probably not for a snare. Shimmer I probably normally wouldn't do on a snare, even though shimmer sounds awesome. So it has this weird phasing, which is kind of cool. This one sounds kind of crazy. So dark hall, I think, is probably, if we're going for like just a basic, regular human being, normal person kind of snare, this is probably what I'd do. And then maybe do a tiny bit less decay. So if we take that and then we combine it, so here's another thing that I've noticed that's a little interesting about the hybrid reverb. If we do serial, it's going through the algorithm first, and then the sound of that is then going through, it's going through the convolution first, and then the sound of that is going through the algorithm, which can end up with really big echoey sounds pretty fast. That's the wrong one. Versus parallel, you just get the two of them at the same time, parallel with each other, which oftentimes I think sounds a little cleaner. But both can work, and I would recommend trying out both. All right, so trying to get at a compressor preset, say to my user library to the favorites collection. Now I can't find how something comes up except for the show in Explorer. All right, so you made a preset using a compressor, it sounds like. It's in your user library. And then after you saved it to user library, you saved it to the favorites collection. But then you try, but when you right click on, nothing comes up except for the show finder. Okay, so you're in a situation where you saved a preset in your user library. Let's go to like, so for example, you got a preset over here that you made, and you right click on it and none of this stuff is coming up. Is that the issue you're running into? And it only says show in Explorer. That is very strange. That could be a bug, or I'm trying to think of another situation where like that would happen. Yeah, because even like folders you can save. Interesting. I have not encountered that myself. I'm trying to think of what kind of like what would cause that to happen. Because you can do it on pretty much everything. It's like you can do it on anything you want. So it shouldn't like restrict you in any way, really. Like plugins, you can do that too. And it's just straight up a preset that you just saved. And it's for everything you do? I don't think administrator mode would really affect it. You could try it if you want. I don't think that's the solution. If you try right clicking on something that's not that preset that you just made, like if you just go to like your audio effects, and you right click on one, can you do it there, or is it everything in your browser cannot be added to any of the collections? Like, I wonder if you like turn everything off, does that make a difference? Yeah, you can still add it there, even if they're if they're turned off. Yeah, what would cause that? That's a fantastic question. I can do some research and look into it and see if anybody else has encountered that. Have you been able to add things in the past? Like, did it work before and then it stopped working for some reason? Yeah, I would try restarting live, and then I think worst case scenario, I would try uninstalling live and then reinstalling it, and that will most likely fix it. It sounds like a weird bug or your computer's just freaking out and just being strange, more than anything else. Because as far as I know, there is no way to like actively turn that off to like make those not work like that. So yeah, restart live first before anything if you haven't tried that yet. And then if that doesn't work, restart your computer. And if neither of those things work, uninstall live, reinstall it, and I feel fairly confident that that should fix your problem. One of those three things will probably work. But yeah, that's a good question. Hopefully, it doesn't stay like that because those collections are super handy to have around. Sweet. So yeah, let me know how it goes and get back to me. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck in that. Also, I would like to point out again for anybody who's just joining us, if you have any questions, feel free to toss them in the chat. Right now, I'm just kind of rambling about building a drum rack, kind of from scratch. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the old just turn it off, turn it back on again trick. Works like 90% of the time when it comes to anything tech related. All right, so we got our snare here, and I got what I think is a decent sounding reverb on it. Again, because we're building a drum template, I don't need everything to be perfect. I just need it to be like good enough that I can like sit down, hit the button, it sounds decent, I can start writing my drum beat. I don't want to have to do this like a million times every single time I try to start a song. So by building a template like this, where I have this like nice sounding, even if it's somewhat generic sounding snare, it's working for me. And I'm also going to toss a compressor on here because why not? Again, I'll use the glue compressor just because I really like the glue compressor on drums. One of the reasons I really like the glue compressor is the built-in limiter right here, this little soft clip guy. Especially for things like snares, I like my snares to pop. And sometimes to make your snares pop, you just gotta slam them through a compressor. And so having the soft clip in here means that it won't ever go above 0 dB, which means I can slam it without need to worry about it. So we're gonna take this, turn the threshold down a little bit, give it our 10 milliseconds of attack. Wait till it bounces up and down a little bit, and then turn the makeup gain to make up for it. And if you like really want to push it, you can like turn that way up. Notice that because I have the compressor after I have the reverb, it really brings out the reverb, which means I can probably tone down the reverb pretty significantly in order to make up for that. I'm feeling okay about that. And again, if I want to like really crank it, yeah, I'm feeling decent about that. So those are going to be kind of like my go-to effects on something like a snare. Going to have a hybrid, necessarily a hybrid reverb. I do like the hybrid reverb because I can just put it on the track here because the send knob is amazing. The send knob is one of the best features in the hybrid reverb. It also looks like the hybrid reverb they may have fixed some of the CPU issues that were going on with it recently. So yeah, reverb, compressor. I could also toss an EQ on here. I probably am going to toss an EQ on here eventually, so might as well do that here. And I'm mostly doing this just to get rid of this like super low frequency area, like anything below 100. That's what I'm looking to do. I'm not doing any like really fancy EQing in here because I'm gonna save any fancy detail-oriented stuff till later on in the process. This is just purely template building. It's kind of what I'm going for. So I got those two things going on. And now I need a hi-hat. I'm not gonna put a lot of like stress into getting the hi-hats to work. Maybe I'll get like a hi-hat and a shaker just because I like shakers. So let me go in here. I'm actually gonna make my life easy. I'm gonna go to the drum packs, go to beat tools, go to one shots. Let's check these guys and see if there's any. That one's pretty nice and kind of generic. I like to have a couple of these in there so I can like play around with them. That sounds pretty good. That sounds decent too. These two both sound cool, but they sound basically exactly the same. So I only need one of those. What's up, Ray? So the biggest differences between Live 11, or at least the features that mean the most to me, as somebody who uses Live a lot, are the new devices. I think hands down are the things that are like that's the best thing about Live. I was just using the hybrid reverb a minute ago, but hybrid reverb is super cool. The updated devices like the phaser, flanger, and the chorus, they're not like 100% new, but they're updated versions of the old ones. And I like the updates that they've made quite a bit, as well as the other new ones, the spectral resonator and spectral time. These are both super cool, but they're a little weird. And so I haven't like found out exactly when I want to use these. I mean, they're good for like really like weird ambient sounds, but they're just cool effects. So things like that, I think, are probably the best reason to upgrade to 11. The other really big thing that is super worth upgrading for is comping. Even if you're not doing a lot of like recording and things like that, just having comping around is really, really useful for just like, I'll take like different base layers of things that I'm doing and like mix and match them together. So comping is huge. New effects are a pretty big deal. The other one is I like a lot of the updates they've made to like MIDI editing in 11. So we have things like, randomizing velocities, for example. So if I say I like plug in some hi-hats, so all these hi-hats are just exactly the same velocity. Really kind of stiff and boring. If I just hit the randomize button, it'll just randomize all the velocities, which sounds way cooler. So it's like one button that just like makes hi-hats just come alive in a lot of ways. And you can control the amount here. So if I only, let me Command Z to undo that. So I only want it to randomize a little bit. I can have them randomize like 15 in either direction. And I can just like keep hitting this. So things like that are really useful. Chance control is kind of cool. So chance will like make it so a particular note will not always happen. So I can put all of these on like a chance of 85%. So it occasionally like skips notes. So a lot of those MIDI editing options are really great. If you are learning music theory, the built-in scale mode is amazing. It's like having the push wherever you want. So if we were to go over here, we can fold based on the scale, and now I can plug in notes that are only in Fijian dominant, which is pretty awesome. So I like all the edits they've made to MIDI editing, randomizing, chance controls are pretty cool. MPE is another one of like the big features in Live 11. I've got an MPE controller. I've got a little rolly block right here. However, I haven't really used this as much as I thought I would. I got the block thinking like, cool, I can like explore all the new MPE features, which is MIDI polyphonic expression, which is great for like performing in really interesting ways. And like this thing's basically a touch controller. And it's like, I can turn it on, Bluetooth together, and you can like use this to play music, which is pretty sweet. But MPE is one that I think over time, as I get more MPE controllers and do more stuff with MPE, I'll probably be using that more. But I think those are a lot of the big kind of flagship reasons. Yeah, you can use MPE to do really nice like 808 glides. There's a lot of like the big things that I've noticed a lot when I'm using Live 11 versus 10. Live 11 to me feels like a couple big flagship features and then a bunch of really small quality of life updates. That's kind of what it feels like to me. There's like lots of little things that don't like change my entire workflow, or they don't like revolutionize the way I make music. But they're useful. They're just helpful little things to have around, and definitely make a difference, especially over time. But yeah, those are kind of off the top of my head some of my favorite reasons to use Live 11 over 10. But a lot of it comes down to the new devices more than anything else for me, because I use a lot of the Ableton built-in devices. Yeah, I think that there are definitely times whenever there's like a new version of a software that I like instantly need to upgrade. Like it fixes a big problem for me, or it changes everything. Like for me, going from 9 to 10, capture was huge. Capture is still my favorite feature in all of Live. And so going back to 9 really feels like a downgrade because of that. Like I don't have that anymore. But Live 11, I feel like, yeah, it's super useful. I think it's really handy to have around. Don't feel pressure to upgrade like right away if you're doing all the things you need to do, unless there's any features that kind of stand out for you. Multi-track editing is the other really big kind of new feature, but it's not something I do a lot because I don't do a lot of multi-track recording. What's up, Thomas? Yeah, YouTube, it knows when you're about to go to sleep, and that's when it saves its best recommendations. I don't know how Google does it, but I guess they know everything about you, so they know your sleep cycles. And that's how they know to hit you with the good recommendations. But welcome back, Thomas. Yeah, I think if I didn't get Live for free for being a certified trainer, I would probably wait until the next time they do a big sale. Usually they'll do one around Christmas, or maybe I don't know if they do one for Black Friday. There's something else about MIDI that they changed. That's mostly it. They've added a bunch of cool options for like randomization that I think are really cool. Well, Thomas, you're welcome to stay here and hang out and not go to sleep for as long as you want. But I was looking for hi-hats. That's what I was doing. Also, if you guys are looking for drum samples and you don't want to go out there and like pay other people for drum samples, and you just like are looking for some nice, interesting one-shots, the Beat Tools Live Pack probably has the best drums of any of the Live Packs, and this is free if you own Live. So if you haven't downloaded the Beat Tools pack, download the Beat Tools pack. It's got some pretty nice drum racks, but more importantly, it has all of the one-shots from all of the drum racks organized by the type of sound that they are. So if you're looking for a kick, there's a bunch of nice kicks in here. In this case, I'm looking for some hi-hats. They're not all perfect, but the level of quality in the Beat Tools pack is like a head and a shoulders above almost any of the live packs, especially in the ones you get for free. So not always, but oftentimes if I just I need a sample for a drum rack, this is a great place to go because they're pretty good overall. But what I'm looking for, I have a really generic hi-hat, so I want to have another one that's a little different. That could work. Let's see. Yeah, that's different enough. Let's do maybe one more, and then maybe also an open one, and then maybe find a shaker. I don't think I'll ever use a triangle in a drum beat. These are all the open ones. That one's kind of cool. Cool, that gives me some diversity. Let's find an open one. That could work. We'll do that one. And I want to find a shaker. Is there a separate folder for shakers? Perfect. One of the biggest pieces of advice I can give any of you guys out there, if you are looking to make better drum beats, use shakers. Shakers are they just make everything just feel really groovy, no matter what kind of music you're making. If you're making hip hop or house music or dubstep or whatever, toss some shakers in there. It makes every beat better. All right, I'm gonna take these three, toss them in there. Cool, perfect. So this is enough for me. Sometimes I'll add another kick in here. Sometimes I'll do more stuff with the, maybe have one snare and one clap. Maybe have a side stick in there. All that kind of stuff. But this is good enough for me to have as just a generic template. So if I want to sit down and write a beat, I got something to work with. So Brian is asking how to clear the notes from a clip without the mouse. I'm using a 12-step while playing guitar, like a 12-step, like the Keith McMillan MIDI foot pedal. Is that what you're talking about, Brian? And so it sounds like what you're trying to do is you have some MIDI notes on a clip that you're using as a backing track while you're playing guitar. And so you have your hands playing guitar, so you're looking to just clear all the MIDI notes out of this particular clip. So that way you can keep playing your guitar and not have to hit the mouse, right? Is that kind of what you're going for? If that is what you're going for, I think probably the best solution is, there's a couple of things you could do. You could, instead of deleting the MIDI notes out of the clip, you could just MIDI map the stop clip button. So every single track has the stop button down here. So you could use that. That stops the clip from playing, and that way it essentially prevents any MIDI notes that we hear from playing because the clip is stopped. I think that would be one option that you could look into. I don't know if there's a specific reason why you want to delete the MIDI, maybe to re-record later on or something. But to me, just MIDI mapping the stop button here would be the best way to do that stop button there. The other option you could consider doing, if you didn't want to do that for whatever reason, is you could use something like the looper audio effect. So you can record a loop here, etc. Now it's just playing that loop. You can overdub it. You can stop it. you can play it again. But the cool thing here is there is a clear button. This clears your loop, and then you can record again. And all of these can be MIDI mapped as well to your foot pedal. So that would be another option if you wanted to kind of switch up how you're doing things to doing like using the looper instead of using clips. Honestly, that seems a little bit more complicated than just mapping stop buttons and play buttons to your foot pedal. Does that make sense? Is there a reason that you want to delete the MIDI notes? Because if there is, I suppose we can get creative with it. I'll have to think a little bit about like an easy way to clear MIDI notes without using the mouse. Yeah, so you're wanting to re-record motor notes on top of that, on that clip. Yeah, so one thing you could try doing. All right, here's an interesting option. I wish I had my MIDI controller plugged in right now. So say we're on this brown track right here, and you want to record something here, and then you want to record something here. You basically you want to record something and then like keep on going down. You can, if you hit Command M in the MIDI map mode, there is this option to move up and down here. So when you MIDI map these, in fact, let me plug in my MIDI controller, and that'll make this a lot easier to explain if I can actually show you. Give me one sec. All right. All right, so if I don't know if you'll be able to see this because my head might be in the way, but if I map that there, and I map that there. So if I map those two arrow buttons, it allows me to use my MIDI controller to move the selection up and down. And then what you could do is also map this play button here to a different MIDI controller or MIDI message, right? So I can go up and down, and then whatever one is currently selected, this little play one over here, if I hit that, it's going to launch that scene like that. And actually, it's going to automatically go down to the next one each time. So right now, I don't have this turned on, but you can set this up just by right-clicking on your master and hit Trigger Recording on Launch. If you do that, now if I hit this button, it's going to record that scene there. It's going to do its thing. And then I can trigger the recording on the next one. And then I can trigger the recording on the next one. And then you can always go back and loop it. So it's basically, it's 3 buttons on your controller. One to move you up, one to move you down, and one to record. Or you could also have this one be the stop button here, so you could stop it. So as long as you're only recording MIDI on that one track, this should allow you to just go wherever you want hit the record button. And then you may have to go back up and hit it again to loop it. Does this have, that says trigger next scene on launch. We're going to turn that off. So let's try this one more time. So these two settings here are pretty important. When you right click on the master track, there's select next scene on launch, and then there's trigger recording on launch. So that would help you, hopefully. There's a few different ways you could get around to doing that, but I think that's probably like one of the, that one uses amongst the least of the MIDI mappings on your pedal, because imagine you want the pedal to do other stuff too. That way you just go up to scene number 1, record enable it, and then you loop it, and then okay, ready to go to the next one, record it, loop it, go to the next one, loop it. The other cool thing about this is if you want to go back to a previous recording, you want to go back to an earlier version, you just use the arrow to go back up, and you play it, and then you just go back to an earlier version of that. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that works out and fixes all the issues you're running into. But when it comes to like that style live performance, there's so many different ways to approach it. There's so many different like options when it comes down to it. So a lot of it comes down to figuring out like what are your specific needs, which it sounds like you're kind of figuring that out already. And then how do you accomplish those? And there's always options. All right, Thomas had a question about the clip view. Can you play from a certain point in the clip view similar to how you would do it in the arrangement view? So I'm assuming you're talking about if we are in the, so just to be clear about terminology, this up here is the session view. This down here is the clip view. So hopefully that you're not talking about the session view over here. But in the clip view, if we have a very long clip, something like this, and you want to start from a certain point, you can either just use your mouse and put it right here and you get a little speaker icon, and then that'll just jump to wherever you're clicking. Or if you want to, if you hold on the command key and just click right here, it moves the start marker. So now when I hit play, it's going to be starting from bar 11. So you can always move the start marker wherever you want by clicking and dragging it, or just holding on the command key and clicking wherever you want it to start. So this is just for this particular clip. So you'd have to do that. If you had multiple clips going on, you'd have to adjust the start point to wherever you wanted them to start individually. Does that make sense? I guess I'm trying to understand. Let me catch up on chat. There's a lot of people talking now. Let me catch up and make sure I'm answering your question correctly. All right. So, also find editing MIDI clips when very zoomed in the clip view. It's hassle to find the same positioning and arrangement to check my edits. Yeah, I guess when I am working in the session view, I don't go, or when I'm working in arrangement view, I don't go back to session view a whole lot. I kind of like start in session view, move things over, and then once I'm here. What's up? Is it Gorley? Garley? How's it going? Welcome. So when you're in session view over here, wherever the start marker is, that's where you're going to start. So when I hit play, it's always going to start there. Gorley. Okay, cool. That's a little hard. You never know with people's YouTube names. People come up with all kinds of names, and I have no idea how to pronounce any of them. So wherever the start marker is, that's where it's going to start playing from for each one of your clips individually, and they can all be different points. So there's no way to like automatically make every single one of them start at bar 2 without individually going in each one and changing the start position to bar 2. If you're trying to reset everything so it all kind of starts over at the same time, you could use the scene launches. So over on the master, you could hit those, and then that will launch the entire row all at the same time. I guess I'm still a little confused about, yeah, I guess using the scene launches, like using that right there, that'll launch everything in that scene all at the same time. And then using this over here. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if there's a way I can make that more clear. Okay, so Thomas is talking about in the arranger view. You got a bunch of clips in here. I'm trying to understand the situation a little better. So we got a bunch of clips in here. And you're trying to line them up how? Are you trying to change the start position of like where it is here? So let me grab an audio clip. Let me just grab it a control loop. Thomas, I'm super confused here. I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. So you're trying to change your position in the arrangement view while you're in the session view to make things line up. And John, I'll get to your question in a moment. I just need to catch up with chat. All right, so first off, John, nothing is off topic here. The whole point of this stream is just to talk about all kinds of random anything. So, all right, so you got some old disco songs in Serato, and you want to get them on the beat grid. Can I warp them point Ableton, but they're way off tempo and difficult to warp without causing artifacts? Would a solution be to split the different tracks into sections, warp parts of the song, and put it back together? You're a better way to warp all the songs fully. Cool. So this is a great question. So when it comes to warping songs like that, they're going to shift. They're going to just change over time, and there's not much you can do about it. So what I found, instead of making separate clips for them, is to basically use the warp markers like anchors and only use them every 16 or 32 bars. And so that way you try to like find that downbeat. I wish I had a good song on here. Let me see if I can find, I don't think I have any like old disco or funk songs on here on this computer, but I might have just something that I can do. I thought I might have something that we could work with. All right, this is not an old disco song, but we can use this as an example. So yeah, first off, if you are dealing with weird artifacts or anything like that, don't use the warp mode complex is what I recommend. I like it better than complex pro. Either one will probably work, but complex is going to be significantly better for warping and stretching things and moving things around. But what I would do is like, okay, so it looks like from here to here is kind of like the intro part of the song, and you can see the kind of like beat changes right here. So we're going to make sure that this beat change, we're going to add a warp marker by double clicking, and then we're gonna be moving it onto position it's supposed to be. And then like over here, it looks like the next section of the song is like, we're gonna like take this and move that onto the grid there. So like every so often at like the start of a new section of the song, just make sure that that downbeat is on time. And that way, if it drifts a little bit in between, it's not a huge deal, but the really key downbeats will still be where you want them to be. So I see a lot of people where like the warp, like just have a million warp markers in to warp a song like this. Like don't bother doing that. Let it maintain a lot of its like original timing. But make sure that the really key moments, the parts where like a new section of the song starts, or really key crucial downbeats are on time. And then everything else in between, it might fluctuate a little bit, it might be off a little bit, but it's mostly where you need it to be. That's the best solution I found for warping those kind of like old songs where they don't want to be on the grid at all. And that way you can still DJ with it because the timing will overall kind of like stay on grid, but not have to like put a million warp markers in there. You don't need to do separate clips because each one of these warp markers, especially like essentially locks it in place. Does that make sense? I do that with like acapellas and things too. I'll make sure that like the start of the phrase is on time, and the rest of it doesn't need to be perfect. It's totally fine if it's off a little bit. Yeah, warping those songs can be a massive headache, so don't stress yourself out about it. All right. So yes, Thomas, I'm still trying to understand your question. You have a bunch of clips. You're only talking about arrangement view and the clip view, is what I'm gathering. And you want to change the position, the starting position of a clip in the arrangement view for multiple clips simultaneously. Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry, I don't get the question. But let me know. Okay, cool. There's also, let's forget the key command. It does warping. There's like a weird key command that you can use to move things around in there. Yeah, so there's two things that are going on. So when I hit play, we have a clip like this. When I hit play, it's going to start wherever the playhead is in the arrangement view, which right now is bar 17. If I click over here, it's going to be bar 13. If I click over here, it's going to be bar 10. So when I hit play, it's going to start wherever that is. So on top of that, we also have our clip start position, which can be anywhere in the clip. So if you don't want this to start at bar 1 here, you can have this start at bar 2, for example. And again, when I hit play, it's starting wherever I hit the space bar, or wherever I click. And then I have the clip itself where I can change the start position separately. You can also use the little speaker icon up here. Wherever you click this, that's where it'll jump to. So you can either use that, or you can just click around and then check the where you are on the grid. And then again, separate from that, we have a start marker here where we can start this clip anywhere inside of that clip. Yeah, you can't control the global start position from inside the clip. I mean, if I click around here, you'll notice that like this little arrow thing changes. So if I click here, if I click there, it's still doing it over there. Yeah, you can't do that. Although you can do this. You can click the use the little speaker icon in the clip view, and that will change where you're playing in the clip. So if I click at the beginning, it plays the beginning. If I click over here, it plays at the end. So this might be the solution to what you're looking for. It's just using the speaker icon down here, and that'll change where you are. Or you can just use the speaker icon up here to control wherever you are out there. Yeah, it's a little weird. It definitely takes a little getting used to, but once you kind of get used to it, it's pretty efficient for jumping around. So Brian, you are trying to MIDI map and you're not getting the plus and minus signs on the master track in the MIDI map mode. Yeah, it's a weird little hidden feature. You have to hit Command M and be in MIDI map mode to even see that, which is why a lot of people don't realize that that's there. Sweet. So we got a lot of awesome questions here. If anybody else has anything that they want to talk about, feel free to toss it in the chat. Also, I'm going to do a little, what's it called, call to action thing. If you guys are enjoying the stream, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Helps out the channel quite a bit, and I appreciate you guys showing up here and hanging out with me. Sweet. So I think we got to every question. I think we got everything. We're all caught up now. Sweet. I appreciate it, Gorley. Welcome to the channel. What kind of music are you into? What's your deal? All right. So I am going to get back into finishing up this drum rack, playing around with it a little bit more. But once again, I will encourage you guys to ask any questions. Feel free to this is kind of just anybody's time. So let me know what you guys are thinking about. All right, so I got most of my drum rack kind of where I want it to be. So Thomas, it's not super common to use the Pioneer DJ controllers with live. However, they work just fine. In fact, so I've used to run an Ableton Certified Training Center out here in Colorado, and the final project for the class that I would teach is they would have to do a 20-minute live set, and they could use any MIDI controller they wanted. But coming into the class, most of the students already owned the little Pioneer DDJs. They're super common, they're super cheap, and they're designed for record box. But they work great with live. If you're doing a DJ set in live, it's got all the things you need, and it can totally work if you were looking to do a DJ set with live. Other than that, they're not super useful. They're good for DJing because that's kind of what they're designed to do. But they work great, and they're audio interfaces, and they can do all the things. No worries, John. Anytime. Nice. I've been hearing a lot of really good things about the Arturia, everything synthwise Arturia is doing. I need to get into that. That's like maybe the next bit of plugins I'll pick up, just because I've never heard anybody say anything bad about the Arturia synth stuff. Thomas, let me grab my controller. So I think something like the APC40 is a fantastic DJ controller with live. It's got all the buttons and knobs and faders you could ever want on it, and it's fairly affordable. I, however, opted to go with the MIDI Fighter Twister. This is available from DJ Tech Tools. This is a fantastic controller. It's built really well. It's got 16 knobs on it, obviously. All of these knobs are also buttons. There's also buttons on the side that take you to different pages. So you basically get 64 buttons and 64 knobs in a controller that is this big. And so I use this to DJ with because it fits in my backpack real easy, and it looks cool and it works really well. The really nice feel to all the knobs, and it does everything I want. So this is what I use, and I don't always recommend this to people. It kind of depends on what your goals are on stage, but this is just a fantastic controller to have around, just because you can never have too many knobs, in my opinion. And it works with live really well, and it's customizable. You can change the colors and all that stuff. Yeah, great controller. But I've messed around with a lot of different MIDI controllers, and they all have their kind of pros and cons. But I don't think I'll give up my MIDI fighter in a very long time. Actually, I had a student, I let them borrow a MIDI fighter from me one time, and then I never saw them again. So this is the second MIDI fighter twister I've had to buy. Sweet. So, and if you guys, Thomas, if you want to talk about DJing sometime, I'm thinking about doing a video series on DJing with live, just because it's something I've been doing a lot more recently. I've been getting booked for more shows, and I'm feeling pretty stoked about just DJing in general. So I might end up doing a little video series of like step one of how to DJ with live, and then kind of build upon that if people are into it. I know everybody's all about the CDJs and the Pioneer stuff right now, but I DJ with live, and I really like it. Yeah, Girly, that's what I keep hearing. Is the Arturia stuff just sounds great, so I need to get into it. Yeah, DJing with live is a little bit more work up front, so it's a little bit more kind of like pre-production stuff that you have to kind of like do in the studio before you get on stage. But once you get on stage, not only can you do anything you want, you could launch one shots, you could play acapellas, you could play backing tracks, you could do percussive loops, you can mix and match totally different tempos together. It's like you can do anything you want, but it's also like pretty easy. You don't need to stress about, you know, things not being tempo synced or whatever. It just gives you like infinite options, just to kind of do what you want with it. So I really like it. I like the creative possibilities of it. Yeah, like I know how a DJ controller works, but like I've never DJ'd on CDJs. Um, I played around with them before, but it's just they're really expensive is kind of the main thing. Cool. Well, it's good to know that there's interest in it, because I wasn't sure if that would be the kind of thing people are really into right now. Because again, um, at least locally, at least where I am, in the DJ world, everybody's just obsessed with the Pioneer stuff. And it used to be when I first started DJing, a bunch of people were DJing with live. It was maybe not 50-50, but maybe like 60-40, 60% of people using CDJs, 40% of people using live or something kind of like that. And now it feels like the people who are DJing with live is less and less. And I'm not sure why. I think just Pioneer their marketing is really, really good. And their just development as a company has been really good over the last decade or so. They've just really have decided, like they became the industry standard for DJing, and they made sure that everybody knew that they were the industry standard for DJing. So everybody thinks about pioneer stuff when they think about DJing, before they think about DJing with Ableton or anything like that. So, I mean, their stuff's super cool too. Their gear is really great, but I don't think I'll ever not DJ with Live. I'm like pretty committed at this point. All right, so I was trying to finish up this drum rack. There's one big issue I was running into where my kick, let me record enable this. My kick, the low part of my kick is, yeah, get some sleep, Thomas. I'll see you next time. The kick, if I hold down the MIDI note, I get this nice, long, big, boomy kick. If I just barely touch the MIDI note, it cuts it off. So there's a solution to this. There's a workaround for this, just like there is anytime you're working with drum racks or just racks in general. So I'm gonna go to the MIDI effects, and I'm gonna go to the note length. So the note length, I'm gonna put right before my operator here, which is doing my low end part of my kick. Like this. So this will make it so that no matter how short or how long I play this MIDI note, it'll play it for that length. So now I can barely touch it and I still get the thing. And we got a little bit too much reverb on that snare. You hear it now. So the thing about building a drum rack is that you can make something sound really dope by itself, and then in the context of everything else, it just doesn't work. So Rasta was asking if, since I'm using a bunch of hi-hats, do I use choke groups? Normally not. Sometimes I'll use choke groups between open and closed hi-hats. A lot of times when I have hi-hats like this, number one, they're really short. So I can like jump back and forth and it's not a big deal. Whereas this one is a little bit longer. So I might like do that just so the tail of one doesn't go into the other. But honestly, I'm not too worried about it in this situation. If I'm using a lot of open hi-hats, then yeah, for sure I'll put them in choke groups. But just most of the time, I'm just using closed hi-hats. I'm not too worried about it. But I have not done any choke groups yet. All right. Other than that, I think I'm mostly feeling pretty decent about this. I might add in some extra sounds later, but I'm gonna go ahead and just save this guy. I think I already have one called this, but let's see. Let's call it that. Really generic name for it. Cool. And I might have to tweak the volume on that a little bit. The snare is a little bit louder than the kick. Actually, turn that snare down a tiny bit. Cool. And I'll resave this. So let's override the old one. And put that in my drum folder, my drum collection. So yeah, so that was the main thing I wanted to do today. It only took me an hour and 25 minutes to build the drum rack, but also answering all your guys' questions. So yeah, that's kind of a lot of the time in my process for building a drum rack is either synthesizing or layering different samples together, tossing some kind of like basic effects in there, some basic processing. Sometimes I'll also like put this entire thing inside of an instrument rack, and that way I can do some kind of like almost pseudo bus based processing on it, like maybe another round of compression at the end. I haven't really tweaked the hi-hats at all. I don't really do a lot of tweaking to the hi-hats. I generally just kind of leave them as is, maybe a little bit of EQing on them. But hi-hats generally don't need a lot of processing. They tend to sound pretty decent where they're at. Well, cool. So with that, I would like to open the floor. If you guys got any questions or things you are interested in talking about, questions for me, music production stuff. Otherwise, I might just start writing a drum beat and kind of see where I go with it. All right, so I'm gonna play around with these sounds a little bit, kind of see how they sound. Yeah, thanks, Curly. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. So I stream on Tuesdays as like an open kind of format stream like this, and then on Fridays I do a song feedback stream for people who want to send me their music. I will take a listen to it on stream. So hopefully I'll see you again at one of these other streams. All right. That's the kind of beat I want to do. But sped up. All right. That's the rhythm. Timing I might need to tweak a little bit. I think I just need to quantize this a little bit. Oops. Let's check our quantize settings, not quarter notes. Nope. Can't tell if my timing is off here or it's on. Is it really? Are these just a 30-second note early? Or should it actually be over here? No, it's not supposed to be there. All right, a couple of them are off, but most of them are kind of where I want to be. I think this one must be there or there. Something sounds weird. Yeah, so I'm just gonna screw around with this beat a little bit and kind of see where it goes. But I like this kind of rhythm, but it seems off to me. Bam, 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 bam. So that one's supposed to be there. And is this one supposed to be there? This is such a weird rhythm. That goes there and there. Those go there and there. Yeah, this is different. Yeah, there's like something weird going on. Like some of these are early, but they're supposed to be early, and some are early, and I'm not sure if they're supposed to be early. What's up, Michael? How's it going? Like my drumming's just not that good, good when I'm finger drumming on my keyboard. It's, these ones are messed up, but I don't know why they're messed up. They seem like they should be good to me. So right before there, so that one's supposed to be there. That one's fine there, and then this one's supposed to be early. I don't know why I keep messing this up. I feel like this is in a different time signature, or I'm just totally messing some up here. Yeah, it's in a different time signature, but I don't know what time signature it is. That were resets. I don't know. I made my life really difficult here by trying to do some crazy beat when I should have just done a regular old beat. Yeah, I have no idea. This is very strange. I like this rhythm, but I don't actually know. Talking about this one? This is not even a full thing. I think there needs to be silence in between it, right? What is going on? It's over here. God, I'm not good enough of a finger drummer to get this right. All right, we're gonna go back to just normal human being drum beats. Cool. Normal, regular drum beats. That's over here, and that's over here. And let's toss in some hi-hats. And let's do some velocity stuff on these guys. I didn't want to do chance though. I just wanted to do velocity. Why is it applying chance percentage? Live is just going crazy on me. We'll just add a little range to it. And let's swap occasionally these guys to different ones. Cool. All right, I think it's me enough to start with. I might toss a little groove on here. We got, what, 16th notes. Let's do a little bit of swing. So one of my favorite things to do here when it comes to working with, like, especially swing, is start with a really heavy swing. So like a 74 or something like that. So it's like obviously like way too much swing. And then use the timing control to scale it back. So the timing control here basically acts like a dry wet. So it's going to start like taking this and moving it back a little bit. So it's going to start off really, really obvious. It's a little too much. It's a lot too much. So if I start turning this down, all the way down to 0, it's fully off. So somewhere in between here, there's a sweet spot for it. So that's probably too much. So maybe somewhere around here, just a little bit of swing. Maybe a little bit less. And that's a great way to kind of like, if you're not sure how much swing you're working on or how much swing you want to be using, it's a great way to kind of like scale it back and dial it back. Anything else I do in here? I feel like it's a decent starting point, at least for right now. I might tweak it up a little bit more. Sweet. So now I got a drum beat that I can start working on a little bit later. So I'm getting a little bit hungry. I've been doing this for a little while. I'm gonna leave the floor open for another couple more minutes. If anybody has any other questions or thoughts or comments or ideas, or mostly really just questions more than anything else, let me know in the chat. And like I said, I'm gonna stick around for a few more minutes and see if there's any other questions. If not, I'm probably gonna peace out, grab some food, and I will be back on Friday for the song feedback stream. So if you have a track that you're working on and you want to get a little feedback on it, just let me know or just come on Friday and send me your track. If you can't make it on Friday and you still want to send me a track, you can upload it through the Discord channel. So if you follow the link down below to the Discord channel, if you're not already in there, I post these song upload spreadsheet early there, so that way you can get your song in, and that way even if you can't make it to the stream, you can still send me a track and I will listen to it and I will give you my thoughts on it during the stream. And all of the streams, this one included, will be uploaded to the channel later on, usually right after, so you can check it out there. All right, so we got some swing going on here, and then I might just start making some variations on this. For example, maybe I will get rid of these guys. Yeah, Brian, feel free to message me if you are interested in doing like a one-on-one session. You can book a like consultation through the website, the Catalyze Academy website. Just like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we can like sit down, you can talk about what it is you're trying to do, and we can kind of figure out to make sure that might be something you're interested in. But like I said, also I'll be back here next week, same time, to do this kind of stream. If you want to come back, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Sick, Michael. Well, I'm stoked to hear whatever track it is you're doing. Stoked to hear that. Rasa, well, thank you. I appreciate you for popping by and joining us. It's always good to have new people here. I'm gonna have the beat play us out for a minute. That was weird. Something weird happened in my stream, but I think it's still okay. All right. Well, again, thanks all you guys for coming by. Once again, if you are not subscribed, or if subscribe, if you are subscribed, like, comment, watch all my videos, put them on repeat, tell your friends, share on Facebook, whatever thing you want. That kind of stuff really helps the channel, and I would very much appreciate that. So you guys have a good evening, make some music, make some weird noises, and I will see you on Friday for the Friday feedback stream. Have a good night.